A review of the Bureau files reveals considerable information concerning Nikola Tesla and his inventions, and it should be noted that one Nikola Tesla might have been identical with Nikola Tesla made a speech at Grand Hall, Springfield, Massachusetts on June 4th, 1922 under the auspices of the Friends of Soviet Russia. It further appears that Sava Kasanovich may be identical with the individual of the same name who is a member of the Yugoslavian government in exile. An examination of files reveals that Sava Kasanovich, described as the Ministry of Supply, arrived with other Yugoslavian government officials in Norfolk, Virginia, September 4th, 1941, from a British ship. In other instances, the name of Sava and Kasanovich appears on stationery of the Central and Eastern European Planning Board for Czechoslovakia, Greece, Poland. On this letterhead, Kasanovich described it as chairman of the board of the Ministry of State of Yugoslavia. It is stated that this board is interested in the planning for post-war Europe. So here we go again. That they're like over the war. This is 1943, and all of these countries, Czech, Greece, Poland, Yugoslavia, they all are interested in post-war Europe. They're focusing on this technology post-war. And it's crazy that in 1943, this is before D-Day had even happened. This is before the invasion of France had even happened. That they're looking at, how are we going to reform Europe? And what are the powers and technologies going to be in play in reforming Europe? This really shows that technology has way more to do with World War II than 90% of the people that research World War II even realize. This is, again, something that's only coming out recently, to the extent that these exotic technologies influenced the stratagems of World War II at the highest level. And in the history books, we learn about this battle or that battle or this, the use of this technology or that. But it's actually the technologies that were not used that made the biggest impact. It seems like that we're finding from the documents, which is paradoxical and counterintuitive. But it seems like almost everything in this world is paradoxical and counterintuitive, which is kind of funny. But, in still another file, it is disclosed that Sava Kasanovich, a Serbian, was a member of the Yugoslavian minority parties, and when an emergency government to overthrow an alliance with the Axis was formed, he was included as an official. So here it says it's against the Axis. He is alleged to be a communist. Here we go. And is said to receive $1,250 a month from the exiled Yugoslavian government. He and other exiled government officials are stated to use these large salaries to finance the Serbian paper in the United States, except Soborian, published at Pittsburgh. And no record of Kenneth Sweezy in the FBI. But they don't even know for sure that this guy is working with other governments or a communist. They're just assuming that. But it is interesting that the Soviets were supposed to be allies with the Allies in 1943. And if you remember at the beginning of this document, they said that they were worried about it falling into the hands of the Axis and that we have to keep this technology within the Allies. Well, if these people are working for the Soviets in the 1940s, those were our allies, allegedly, at that time. So why is our government just absolutely sweating bullets over the fact that some Soviets may have found this technology? If we're all working together, it seems like it might not have been that simple, and that this technology was really, really sensitive for it to be that important. And here we have March 6, 1943. Looks like this is a New York World Telegram, January 8th, 1943. So Nikola Tesla dies at 85, alone, allegedly, in his hotel suite. Nikola Tesla, 85, inventor of the Tesla coil, induction motor, and hundreds of other electrical devices, died last night in his suite at Hotel New Yorker. According to hotel officials, he had been in failing health for 2 years. The world-famous inventor, who lived alone, was found dead in bed by a maid. She called a hotel physician. The hotel management started looking for friends and relatives, but they couldn't find anybody. They thought he had a nephew, but they couldn't find him. And talks about some more about his past. I'm going to skip through some of this. He worked at Prague. He came to the United States in 1894 and became a naturalized citizen. In 1886, he designed the arc lightning system. 2 years later, he invented the Tesla motor and designed a plan for the transmission of alternating current. The following years, he presented plans for electrical conversion and distribution by oscillatory discharges. His high-frequency studies and development of the transforming coil bearing his name occurred from 1890 to 1891. So it only took him 1 year to make a Tesla coil. From then up to from 1900, his discoveries and inventions included such fields and appliances as wireless communication, electrical oscillation, radiant power, and radioactive matter. Communication and wireless power transmission occupied most of his research. So this was his main research, it says. The power transmission and wireless communication was his main jam for over a decade. Because he finished the Tesla coil in 1891, it says. So then he started working on the Tesla tower in 1890. And then, so if he died in the 30s and 40s, well, he died in 43, but he was working on this through the 30s and 40s. That's 40 years. Nearly 45 years. Or closer to 50 years that he was working on this. So almost a half century he worked on the communication and wireless power transmission. And it only took him 1 year to make the Tesla coil. And he worked on the Tesla tower for apparently closer to 50 years. So think about that. And it says that he worked with Thomas Edison at Orange, New Jersey, specializing motors. And I'm going to scroll down some more here because we have some duplicate documents again. It says that invariably carrying bags of crumbs he fed to the pigeons, Mr. Tesla's only military invention, which he once alluded but never fully described. It was a means where an impenetrable wall of force could be reacted. I don't even know. I guess it's an old word. Reacted about a nation's border, which could render helpless any military attack. So they could build something on the border that would prevent attacks. He disclosed existence of the plan in 1934 and said he intended to present it to the Geneva Conference. He seldom referred to it afterwards. In 1936, when he was 80, He said his original plan to live to 135 had changed with the repeal of prohibition, and he would like to live to 150. He was decorated by the Yugoslav and Czech governments. He had wept when he met the King Peter of Yugoslavia. And then here we have another tribute by the mayor talking about funeral services. And here's another clip from a newspaper that talks about death ray for planes. Nikola Tesla, one of the truly greatest inventors who celebrated his 84th birthday on July 10th, tells the writer that he stands ready to divulge to the United States of America the secret of Teleforce, which he said had airplane motors would melt and at a distance of 250 miles so that an invisible Chinese wall of defense would be built around the country against an attempted attack by an enemy air force, no matter how large. So this makes me think of Admiral Byrd, honestly. This Operation High Jump had not occurred yet, but this makes me think of Admiral Byrd. And then when he's talking about Chinese wall of defense, he's talking about the Great Wall of China. He's not actually talking about some defense from China, because China was on our side at this point. We were really close with China at this period in time. They were fighting the Japanese, and we were helping them do that. So this teleforce, he said, is based on an entirely new principle of physics that no one has ever dreamed about, different from the principle embodied in his inventions relating to the transmission of electrical power from a distance, for which he has received a number of basic patents. This new type of force, Mr. Tesla said, would operate through a beam 100 billionth of a square centimeter in diameter and could be generated from a special plant that could cost no more than $2 million and would take only about 3 months to construct. A dozen such plants located at strategic points along the coast, according to Mr. Tesla, would be enough to defend the country against any possible aerial attack. The beam would melt any engine, whether diesel, gasoline, or gasoline-driven, and would ignite the explosives aboard any bomber. No possible defense against it could be devised, he assured, as the beam would be all-penetrating. High vacuum elimination. The beam, he states, involved 4 new inventions, 2 of which already have been tested. One of these is a method and apparatus for producing rays and other manifestations of energy in free air, eliminating the necessity for a high vacuum. And a second is a method and process for producing very great electrical force. The third is a method for amplifying this force. And the fourth is a new method for producing a tremendous electrical repelling force. This would be the projector or gun of the system. The voltage for propelling the beam to its objective, according to the inventor, would attain a potential of 50 million volts. Jeez. Kind of sounds like a railgun a little bit as well. Sounds like he's like mixing a railgun with electricity or some sort of thing. That would, I don't know. Seems like we might be talking about multiple things here. But from part of that description sounded like an electrical railgun, some direct energy railgun type of thing. With this enormous voltage, he said, microscopic electrical particles of matter will be catapulted on their mission of defensive destruction. He has been working on this invention, he added, for many years and has recently made a number of improvements. Mr. Tesla makes one important stipulation. Should the government decide to take up his offer, he would go to work at once, but they would have to trust him. He would suffer no interference from experts. In extraordinary times such and conditions, sorry, this is like very muddled. All the text is like squeezed together in a tiny little spot. In ordinary times, such a condition would very likely interpose an insuperable obstacle, but times being what they are, and with the nation getting ready to spend billions for national defense, at the same time, taking in consideration the reputation of Mr. Tesla as an inventor years ahead of his time, the question arises whether it may not be advisable to take Mr. Tesla at his word and commission him to go ahead with the construction of the Teleforce plant. Is such a device invaluable? After all, $2 million would be a relatively very small sum compared to what is at stake. If Mr. Tesla really fulfills his promise, the result achieved would be a truly staggering. Not only would it save billions now planned for air defense by making the country absolutely impregnable against any air attack, but it would also save many more billions in property that would otherwise be surely destroyed, no matter how strong the defenses are, as witnesses current events in England. I guess they're talking about the Battle of Britain, or just ended. Take, for example, the Panama Canal. No matter how strong the defenses, a suicidal squadron of dive bombers, according to experts, might succeed in getting through and cause such damage that might make the canal unusable, in which case our Navy might find itself bottled up. Considering that the probabilities in the case, even if the chances are 100,000 to 1 against Mr. Tesla, the odds would still be largely in favor of taking a chance on spending $2 million. In the opinion of the writer, who has known Mr. Tesla for many years and can testify that he still retains fully intellectual vigor, the authorities in charge of building the national defense should at once look at the matter. The sum is insignificant compared to the magnitude of the stake. So we're going to scroll through some documents here because they're just duplicates. They don't really say anything. Then we get into some that are so badly like blown out. It's not even, you can't even read them. And it says that the Serbian National Defense, that there's this guy that is aiding the Nazi propaganda program, damaging the war effort allegedly, and that they have to watch that guy with concern. The Nazis have boasted that they would get Americans against Americans, and they are striving to do so. So I found that to be particularly interesting. They said that the Nazis are focusing on going after against Americans versus Americans. And I think that I have this document again later on in this folder that's more readable, so I'm just going to keep on scrolling down. But same thing with this, that I think there's a more readable version down below. But I'm just going to read this part right here. This is a direct letter from New York City from Philip Parkovich and Sava Kasanovich, telling Sava, I'm pretty sure, to stop all the attacks on this Serbian Knightley and Ruth Mitchell. I'm not really sure what that's talking about or who that is. Says that he's going to break all of Kasanovich's bones and put Croatian bones in his body or something. I don't know. It calls him rotten dirt, and that he's a dirty B-word assembling crumbs for the benefit of the Germanic Croat, and that he's an agent of Hitler and Mussolini, and that the FBI is going to get you soon, and to cease the attack on national defense and Miss Mitchell, and that you are the conspirators who killed the king. And I don't know who the king is. I wish we knew who that was. And that was Philip Markovich by his own hand. And it says the FBI here says that Markovich had acted as though he was proud of writing the letter. So the plot kind of is thickening, right? Some weird letter threatening Kasanovich, saying that he's a Nazi conspirator, but he's working against the Nazis in different capacities. So that was pretty interesting. scrolling through here some more, back to the terribly typed letter here. It's very difficult to read. This examination was made at the Manhattan warehouse on January 20th to 27th. So, by the Alien Property Custodian. That's a long time. If he died on, what was it, the 7th or the 8th, and they came on the 20th to the 27th, that was a long time for those to just be sitting in there, apparently unsecured, or potentially unsecured. But it says the Alien Property Custodian took like custody of it, so I'm not sure if it was secured or not. It sounds like it could have been, but it says that no scientific value or apparatus or devices of significant value to this country would constitute a harm in unfriendly hands. That way, there is no technical or military reason why further custody of the property should be retained. So here they're saying that there is no like actual value in this stuff. Alien Property Custodian Walter Korstick. So that's really strange. And then it continues on here to say that it should be no discredit to this distinguished engineer and scientist whose solid contributions to the electrical art were made at the beginning of the present century, to report that his thoughts and efforts during at least the past 15 years were primarily speculative, philosophical, and somewhat promotional character, often concerned with the production and wireless transmission of power, but did not include any new sound workable principles or methods for realizing such results. So this is the Alien Custodial Lab or whatever saying that there was nothing of value January 30th. So very strange. It's almost as if somebody came and took everything of value, right? I mean, for there to be nothing of value in like 80 trunks and barrels and bundles and all it's safe, I'm calling like garbage on that. There's no way there is nothing of value in all of that. But here we have something else that's very interesting. January 26th and 27th, that the Alien Property Custodian John G. Trump, of Office of Scientific Research and Development, MIT, Cambridge, Massachusetts, Willis George, Office of Naval Intelligence, 3rd Naval District, Edward Palmer, Chief Yeoman of USNR, John J. Corbett, Chief Yeoman of the USNR. I have no idea what that is. The following papers regarded typical of Nikola Tesla's writings and thoughts and papers of 1925 to 1942 were removed for the purpose of record and are listed below in random order in which they were found, together with brief individual abstract possibilities of electrostatic generators. An undated article probably written about 1934 discussing the possibility as a source of high voltage DC power of the Van de Graaff type of electrostatic belt generator. The article states correctly the electrostagnetic principle employed in this device and points out that generators are not suitable for commercial high power applications, though of undoubted scientific value. Tesla's wireless tower, erected in 1902 on Long Island, is stated in this memorandum to have been charged to 30 million volts. Exhibit B, reactive forces of glycerin and dynamite, an undated memorandum involving some calculations of explosive power of certain compounds and then deviating to a discussion of the possibility of transmitting power by mechanical vibrations along the Earth's crust. That's extremely interesting. Isn't that kind of close to what HARP does, as well as others? A process of degassifying, refining, and purifying metals. This is extremely interesting as well, because this is what they talk about with the Philadelphia experiment, is degassifying. And, I mean, if it allegedly happened or whatever, but we do know that they were heavily looking at degassifying, demagnetizing metals. So this is about magnetism again. 41-page memorandum, probably written about 1930, dealing with the above subject and proposing new theories of capillarity and surface tension. This correspondence indicates this had been submitted to various industrial companies. Very interesting. Reply to Amtorg's the generation of high voltage and the acceleration of charged particles. This document dated November 8th, 1935, which this is the beginning of like nuclear weapons, rail guns, like particle guns, CERN type of super the CERN thing, I can't think of the name of it right now, that they smash electrons into each other really quickly. All of this is on the same type of thing. This document, dated November 8th, 1935, answers questions raised by Soviet engineers and scientists regarding Tesla's proposal of May 16th, 1935. From this answer, it is deduced that the proposal concerned the generation of high voltages by electrostatic means. These means consist of high voltage terminal presumably supported on an insulating column and charged by gaseous charge conveying medium passing between ground and terminal. The ideas contained in this memorandum are fairly similar to the belt conveyor electrostatic generator methods proposed by Van de Graaff and do not appear to offer unusual features. Exhibit E, Art of Telegeodynamics, or art of producing terrestrial motions at a distance. That sounds wild. This document, in the form of a letter dated June 12, 1940, to the Westinghouse Electrical and Manufacturing Company, proposes a method of transmission of large amounts of power, vast distances, by means of mechanical vibration of the Earth's crust. The source of power is a mechanical or electromechanical device bolted to some rocky protuberance and imparting power at a resonance frequency of the Earth's crust. So we talk about resonance, right? The Schumann resonance. It's talking about Schumann resonance here. And doing a harmonious, high voltage energy in resonance with the frequency of the Earth's crust. And the proposed scheme appears to be completely visionary and unworkable. Westinghouse's reply indicate the polite rejection of this idea. So they say it's unworkable, but I'm not sure about that. I'm not like a groundbreaking scientist or whatever, so I can't say if it is or not. But using resonance frequencies is completely doable, so I don't know what they're saying is unworkable about that. But new art of projecting concentrated, non-dispersive energy through natural mediums. This undated document by Tesla describes an electrostatic method of producing very high voltages capable of very great power. The generator is used to accelerate charged particles, presumably electrons, such as a beam of high-energy electrons passing through the air. This is concentrated through non-dispersive means, which energy is transmitted through natural media. As a component of this apparatus, there is a described and open-ended vacuum tube within the electrons at first accelerated.